For more than 300 years, the galaxy believed humanity had changed. The old stories spoke of humans as fearless warriors who had survived impossible wars, conquered impossible frontiers, and refused to surrender no matter the odds. But those stories had faded into myth. The modern galaxy knew a very different humanity, a peaceful civilization more interested in science, diplomacy, and trade than conquest. Human ambassadors negotiated peace treaties instead of military alliances. Human engineers built hospitals instead of battleships. Human scientists shared revolutionary medical discoveries with every race willing to cooperate. While powerful empires competed for territory and resources, humanity quietly expanded through cooperation rather than war. To the rest of the galaxy, humans were intelligent. They were creative. They were trustworthy. But they were no longer dangerous. That belief had become accepted fact. Inside the magnificent crystal halls of the Galactic Council, representatives from more than 400 civilizations gathered for what appeared to be another routine meeting. Massive holographic star maps floated above the circular chamber, displaying trade routes, colony expansions, and diplomatic reports from every corner of known space. Everything seemed normal. Then every display suddenly flashed red. An emergency alert echoed through the chamber. A young intelligence officer hurried toward the center platform, her face pale with disbelief. Emergency transmission from the Sol system. The room instantly fell silent. Council Director Zerath stood from his chair. What has happened? The officer swallowed before activating the tactical map. Hundreds of red lights appeared near Earth's location. Then thousands. The map continued updating until nearly the entire Sol system disappeared beneath crimson markers. Gasps spread throughout the chamber. Identify the fleet, Zerath ordered. The officer looked down at her scanner. Her voice trembled. The invasion fleet belongs to the Zerath Dominion. Silence. Complete silence. Even the oldest council members froze. The Zerath Dominion was the most feared military empire in galactic history. For nearly 1,000 years, it had conquered civilization after civilization. Entire planets surrendered the moment Zerath warships entered orbit. Those who resisted simply disappeared. No empire had ever defeated them. No alliance had ever stopped them. The holographic display zoomed closer. More than 12,000 warships emerged from hyperspace. Titan-class carriers, orbital bombardment cruisers, heavy assault destroyers, planet-killer platforms. The largest invasion fleet assembled in centuries. One council member whispered, "They're attacking Earth." Another shook his head. But why? Humanity possesses no major military threat. They have one of the smallest fleets among developed civilizations. Someone quietly answered, "Exactly. They're the easiest target." Far across the galaxy, life on Earth continued peacefully. Children laughed in school playgrounds. Cargo ships landed in spaceports. Families gathered for breakfast. Farmers worked endless fields beneath bright blue skies. No one knew that thousands of alien warships were racing toward their home. Then every military satellite detected the same impossible signal. Hyperspace ruptures. Thousands of them. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, inside Earth's Global Defense Command, alarms exploded across the command center. Red emergency lights illuminated every wall. Unknown fleet entering solar system. Massive hyperspace signatures confirmed. All defense sectors reporting contact. General Marcus Hale entered the operations room without speaking. The officers immediately stepped aside. Every screen displayed the same terrifying image. An endless wall of alien warships. One young lieutenant stared at the tactical display. "I've never seen numbers like this." Another officer whispered, "They outnumber our fleet almost 20 to 1. Marcus remained calm. He had spent 30 years preparing for this exact possibility. He slowly folded his arms. "So, they finally came." The room became completely silent. No one asked what he meant. On the bridge of the Zerath flagship Oblivion's Wrath, Supreme Commander Zerath observed Earth through a massive panoramic window. The blue planet looked peaceful, fragile, beautiful. His officers laughed among themselves. So this is humanity? They're even weaker than intelligence predicted. Our victory will be effortless. Zerath nodded calmly. They've spent centuries pretending peace could protect them. They're about to learn otherwise. He turned toward his communications officer. Transmit the surrender message. Seconds later, every television, every mobile phone, every orbital display, every computer screen, every satellite network on Earth interrupted normal broadcasts. The image of a towering alien commander filled every screen. His black armor reflected the cold light of his flagship. His voice echoed across the planet. People of Earth, I am Supreme Commander Zerath of the Zerath Dominion. This world now belongs to the Emperor. You will deactivate all planetary defenses immediately. You will surrender every military installation. You have exactly 1 hour. Failure to comply will result in planetary bombardment. The transmission ended. For several long seconds, no one moved. The entire planet seemed to stop breathing. News anchors struggled to find words. Financial markets collapsed within minutes. Air traffic halted worldwide. Parents rushed to schools. Families embraced one another. Millions looked toward the night sky, where tiny lights had already begun appearing above the atmosphere. The invasion had begun. Across the galaxy, billions watched the live broadcast. Many civilizations lowered their heads in sympathy. One elderly council member sighed. Humanity never stood a chance. Another quietly replied, peace has made them weak. No one argued. Everyone believed Earth's fate had already been decided. Everyone, except humanity. Hidden nearly 2 kilometers beneath the Himalayan mountains, behind layers of reinforced alloy and forgotten security systems, a colossal underground facility came to life for the first time in over 3 centuries. Ancient blast doors slowly opened. Rows of lights illuminated a vast command chamber. Only 12 people on Earth knew this place existed. General Marcus Hale entered alone. Waiting for him were retired admirals, former presidents, legendary scientists, and commanders whose names had vanished from history decades ago. None of them looked afraid. They had always known this day might come. At the center of the room stood a black console covered in dust. No one had touched it for 300 years. Marcus placed his hand on the biometric scanner. A calm artificial voice echoed through the chamber. Identity confirmed. Another message appeared. Supreme Commander authorization accepted. The screen changed once more. Only 3 words appeared. Protocol Olympus available. Marcus stared at the screen. He remembered the warning every Supreme Commander received before taking office. If Protocol Olympus is ever activated, the galaxy will never see humanity the same way again. Behind him, absolute silence filled the chamber. Above them, Earth waited. The surrender countdown had already begun. And somewhere, hidden far beyond the eyes of every alien civilization, something enormous had just awakened. The 60-minute countdown spread across every screen on Earth. 59 minutes and 43 seconds. 59 minutes and 42 seconds. Every second felt heavier than the last. Around the world, cities fell into chaos. Emergency sirens echoed through the streets as governments activated evacuation protocols that everyone knew were hopeless. There was no shelter capable of surviving an orbital bombardment. Families embraced one another. Children asked questions no parent could answer. Religious leaders filled churches, mosques, temples, and synagogues with people searching for hope. For the first time in centuries, all of humanity faced the same terrifying possibility. Extinction. Inside Earth's Global Defense Command, the atmosphere was completely different. No one panicked. No one shouted. Every officer moved with calm precision. General Marcus Hale stood before the massive tactical display as thousands of red enemy markers advanced deeper into the solar system. Status report. Commander Elena Brooks stepped forward. The Zerath fleet will reach Mars orbit in 23 minutes. Our outer defense stations? Destroyed. The lunar shield? Holding, but only barely. Marcus nodded. Exactly as expected. He looked toward Admiral David Ross. Deploy the first defense fleet. Several young officers looked at one another in confusion. The first fleet, sir? Marcus answered without emotion. Yes. Within minutes, Earth's official navy began leaving orbit. Only 300 warships, old cruisers, conventional destroyers, outdated carriers. Compared to the Zerath Armada, they looked insignificant. Aboard the Oblivion's Wrath, Supreme Commander Zerath watched the human fleet emerge. Then he laughed. So, that is everything humanity has. His officers laughed with him. Our intelligence was accurate. They're weaker than expected. Destroy them. No. Zerath raised one hand. Let them come. I want the galaxy to watch their courage fail. Across known space, billions of viewers watched the live military broadcast. The image showed Earth's tiny defensive fleet moving toward an ocean of enemy warships. Many civilizations looked away. They couldn't bear to watch. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge of the human battleship HMS Valor. Her crew remained perfectly calm. No fear. Only determination. A young navigator finally spoke. Captain, we're badly outnumbered. Sarah smiled. I know. Are we actually expected to win? She looked toward the stars. No. The bridge became silent. Then she continued. Our job isn't to win. Our job is to buy time. No one asked for further explanation. Every officer simply nodded. The first shots of the war were fired near Jupiter. Brilliant blue beams crossed the darkness of space. Human railguns answered with thunderous flashes. Explosions illuminated the void. One Zerath cruiser disappeared in a cloud of plasma. The bridge of the alien flagship erupted in surprise. They actually destroyed one. Zerath narrowed his eyes. Interesting. A second later, thousands of alien weapons fired simultaneously. The darkness exploded into blinding light. Human ships vanished one after another. Entire squadrons disappeared beneath overwhelming firepower. The HMS Courage exploded while protecting civilian evacuation transports. The HMS Defender rammed an enemy destroyer after losing all weapons. The HMS Liberty continued firing even after half the ship had been torn away. Every sacrifice bought humanity another minute. Across Earth, millions watched their defenders fight impossible odds. People cried as familiar ships disappeared from the battlefield. Yet not a single human vessel attempted to retreat. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, complete silence filled the room. Council Director Viarek watched in disbelief. They know they cannot win. Another council member answered quietly, they're fighting anyway. An elderly representative from one of the oldest civilizations slowly stood. I have seen many wars. I have watched thousands of fleets surrender. But I have never seen soldiers fight with this much courage. For the first time, respect began replacing pity. Back on Earth, Marcus Hale watched the battle unfold exactly as predicted. Fleet casualties? 40%. Continue. Another officer hesitated. Sir, we're losing. Marcus calmly looked at him. No, we're following the plan. The young officer frowned. What plan? Marcus didn't answer. Instead, he turned toward an encrypted terminal. Only one message appeared. Olympus status. Standby. Not yet. On the battlefield, Captain Sarah Mitchell gripped her command chair as alarms screamed around her. Direct hit. Port shields collapsing. Hull breach on Deck 7. The bridge shook violently. Smoke filled the air. One officer shouted, Captain, we have to retreat. Sarah looked through the cracked viewport. Hundreds of enemy warships surrounded them. There was nowhere to run. She smiled. Negative. Maintain formation. Another explosion ripped through the ship. Power flickered. Life support failed for several seconds. Yet the HMS Valor continued forward. The crew fought with absolute determination. Not because they believed they would survive, but because they trusted someone else was watching the clock. Aboard the Oblivion's Wrath, Zerath folded his arms. The humans are stubborn. They've delayed us longer than expected. One tactical officer nodded. Should we deploy the planetary bombardment platforms? Zerath looked at Earth. Yes. I've grown tired of this. Immediately, 20 massive siege platforms moved toward firing position. Each possessed enough firepower to erase an entire continent. Across Earth, warning systems detected the weapons charging. Panic spread faster than ever. Children cried. Governments issued final broadcasts. The countdown reached its final minutes. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, Marcus Hale entered the ancient command chamber once again. Every member of the secret council stood waiting. The room remained silent. An AI voice echoed through the darkness. Enemy siege platforms entering bombardment range. Planetary extinction probability, 98.7%. Marcus slowly walked toward the black console. His heartbeat remained steady. 3 centuries of preparation had led to this moment. He placed both hands on the console. The ancient system awakened. Lights that had remained dark for hundreds of years suddenly illuminated across the chamber. A single question appeared on the screen. Authorize Protocol Olympus? Marcus closed his eyes for a brief moment. Then he opened them and whispered, "Not yet." The bridge of the HNS Valor shook under another devastating impact. Emergency lights flashed crimson across the walls as sparks rained from the ceiling. Captain Sarah Mitchell gripped the armrests of her command chair. Damage report. Commander Lewis looked up from his console. His face covered in blood from a head wound. Forward shields are gone. Main reactor at 61%. We've lost engines 3 and 4. Life support has failed on 3 decks. Sarah nodded. And weapons? Still operational. A faint smile appeared on her face. Then we're still in this fight. Around her, exhausted crew members exchanged determined glances. No one complained. No one suggested surrender. They all knew the truth. Their mission was never to win. It was to survive. Just a little longer. Outside the battered ship, the battle had become a nightmare. The first defense fleet had entered the engagement with 300 vessels. Less than 100 remained. Burning wreckage drifted through space. Fragments of destroyed cruisers floated between planets like silent monuments to humanity's courage. Yet every surviving human ship continued advancing. Every captain knew retreat was impossible. Every minute they delayed the Zerath fleet brought Earth one step closer to whatever General Hale had planned. Aboard the Oblivion's Wrath, Supreme Commander Zerath watched the battlefield with growing irritation. Report. A tactical officer answered nervously. We have destroyed over 70% of the human fleet. Our casualties remain minimal. Then why are they still fighting? They refuse to withdraw. Zerath frowned. It makes no strategic sense. Another officer spoke. Commander, perhaps they are buying time. Zerath laughed. For what? They have nothing left. Unknown to him, he was wrong. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, the ancient command chamber glowed with blue light for the first time in centuries. General Marcus Hale stood before the black console. Around him stood the 12 guardians of Protocol Olympus. Retired admirals, scientists, former presidents. Every one of them had spent decades protecting a secret greater than any weapon in history. The AI spoke again. Planetary bombardment platforms entering firing position. Estimated impact. 4 minutes. Silence filled the room. Marcus finally spoke. Confirm all civilian evacuation bunkers. Confirmed. Confirm lunar synchronization. Confirmed. Confirm deep space relay. Confirmed. He nodded once. There would be no second chance. He looked toward the 12 guardians. This is the moment our ancestors prepared for. One elderly admiral smiled. I never believed I'd live long enough to see it. Marcus turned back to the console. Authenticate. A laser scanned his eyes, his DNA, his heartbeat, his voice. One by one, every security protocol unlocked. The chamber trembled. A hidden elevator descended from the ceiling. Inside rested a crystal cylinder unlike anything the modern galaxy had ever seen. Contained a single quantum key. Forged 300 years earlier. Never used. Until now, Marcus carefully removed it. The AI announced, "Final authorization available." He inserted the key into the console. The entire chamber erupted with light. Far beyond Pluto, an abandoned asteroid suddenly came alive. Its rocky surface cracked apart. Hidden beneath centuries of dust lay a massive shipyard. Gigantic blast doors opened. Thousands of lights illuminated the darkness. Elsewhere, deep inside the moon, entire mountain ranges split apart. Ancient hangars awakened. Engines that had slept for centuries slowly ignited. Hidden beneath the oceans of Earth, enormous platforms rose toward the surface. Across forgotten corners of the solar system, dead comets, mining colonies, research stations, asteroid bases, every one of them revealed the same impossible truth. They had never been civilian facilities. They had always been military shipyards. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, sensors across known space suddenly malfunctioned. An intelligence officer stared at her display. "Director, I'm detecting hyperspace signatures." Arek looked confused. "Where?" The officer swallowed. "Everywhere. Impossible. They're inside the solar system." "How many?" The officer couldn't answer immediately. Her scanner kept updating. 500, 1,000, 3,000, 7,000. The numbers refused to stop climbing. The room erupted into panic. "What is happening? Those readings can't be real." Another scanner activated. Then another. Every sensor network reported the same impossible result. Thousands of unidentified warships had suddenly appeared where empty space had existed only moments earlier. On the bridge of the Oblivion's Wrath, alarms screamed without warning. A tactical officer jumped to his feet. "Commander, massive hyperspace emergence detected." Zerath frowned. "Reinforcements? We don't know." "Source. They're everywhere." Before anyone could react, space itself began to shimmer. The darkness around the Zerath fleet fractured like glass. One after another, colossal warships emerged from hyperspace. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. Their hulls were unlike anything recorded in galactic history. Moon-sized dreadnoughts, stealth carriers stretching nearly 20 kilometers in length, autonomous drone command ships, railgun platforms surrounded by rotating magnetic rings. Each vessel carried the same symbol across its armored hull, a silver phoenix rising from Earth. Every human captain still alive stopped fighting. They simply watched. Captain Sarah Mitchell whispered, "My God, they're real." Commander Lewis looked at the tactical display in disbelief. "Those aren't ships. Those are entire moving fortresses." Across every communication channel in the solar system, calm voice echoed. Every human recognized it instantly. "General Marcus Hale. Attention all human defense forces." There was no fear in his voice, no anger, only quiet certainty. "The time for hiding is over. Protocol Olympus is now active." At that exact moment, more than 10,000 hidden human warships completed their hyperspace jump. The balance of the war changed forever. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the mighty Zerath Dominion realized they were no longer the hunters. They had become the prey. For a long, silent moment, no one fired a single shot. Not the Zerath Dominion. Not the surviving human defense fleet. Not even the countless observers watching from every corner of the galaxy. The impossible sight unfolding before them stole every breath. Where empty space had existed only seconds earlier, an armada larger than any fleet in recorded history now filled the solar system. The new arrivals stretched from the orbit of Mars to the edge of Jupiter. Thousands upon thousands of warships stood in perfect formation. Each vessel was larger, darker, and more heavily armored than anything the Galactic Council had ever documented. Moon-sized dreadnoughts floated at the center of the formation like silent giants. Titan carriers surrounded them, their launch bays opening to reveal millions of autonomous combat drones. Stealth cruisers seemed to disappear and reappear as their adaptive camouflage distorted the light around them. Railgun platforms rotated slowly, each carrying magnetic cannons powerful enough to punch through planetary shields. Every ship bore the same emblem, a silver phoenix rising above Earth, the symbol of the Olympus fleet. On the bridge of the Oblivion's Wrath, Supreme Commander Zerath could barely believe what he was seeing. Identify those vessels. His intelligence officer worked frantically. No records, no construction history, no registered shipyards, no intelligence files. Commander, we have never seen these ships before. Another officer interrupted. Our scanners estimate. He stopped speaking. Zerath turned toward him. Finish your report. The officer swallowed. There are approximately 10,800 warships. Silence. Even Zerath's confidence began to crack. Impossible. No civilization could hide a fleet of that size. Across the Galactic Council chamber, panic erupted. Council members shouted over one another. Where did they come from? How did our intelligence fail? We've monitored Earth for centuries. Virek slowly sat down. For the first time in his political career, he looked frightened. Humanity, what have you been hiding? Back aboard the damaged HMS Valor, Captain Sarah Mitchell watched the new fleet with tears in her eyes. Her communications officer suddenly smiled. Captain, we're receiving encrypted military transmissions. Sarah looked toward him. From who? The young officer laughed. The Second Fleet. Another signal appeared. The Third Fleet. Then another. The Seventh Fleet. The Ninth Fleet. The 12th Fleet. The channel filled with friendly voices. Thousands of them. Human voices. Ships that no active officer had ever seen. One elderly admiral finally spoke across the network. This is Grand Admiral Nathan Cross. To every man and woman who held the line, you've done your duty. Now allow us to do ours. Cheers erupted aboard every surviving human ship. Crew members hugged one another. Some cried openly. Others simply stared through the viewports in disbelief. They had spent years believing they were humanity's entire navy. Now they understood. They had only been the shield. Deep beneath the Himalayas, General Marcus Hale stood before the Olympus command console. Around him, giant holographic displays came alive. One by one, hidden fleets reported in. First Hidden Fleet, ready. Atlantic Defense Fleet, ready. Lunar Command Fleet, ready. Solar Outer Defense Fleet, ready. Titan Expeditionary Fleet, ready. Deep Black Fleet, ready. The reports continued. More than 50 independent battle groups, each commanded by officers whose identities had remained classified for generations. Marcus smiled for the first time since the invasion began. Broadcast to all fleets. His words echoed across 10,000 warships. Today, the galaxy learns why humanity chose peace. It was never because we feared war. It was because we understood its cost. A pause. Then his final order. All fleets, advance. The Olympus fleet moved. Not with panic. Not with anger. With absolute precision. Entire formations shifted in perfect synchronization. Thousands of drone fighters launched simultaneously, darkening the space around the Zerath fleet. Massive dreadnoughts charged their magnetic railguns. Carrier groups deployed interceptor squadrons. Electronic warfare ships flooded enemy communications with interference. Within seconds, the invaders found themselves surrounded. Commander Zerath immediately stood. Battle stations. Destroy them. The Zerath fleet opened fire. Thousands of plasma lances crossed the battlefield. The first volley struck the leading human dreadnought. Every observer expected the giant ship to explode. Instead, the brilliant explosions faded. The dreadnought continued forward without slowing. The shields hadn't even flickered. An officer stared at his scanner. Commander, their shield technology. It's absorbing the energy. Another blast. Another direct hit. Still nothing. The human flagship remained untouched. Zerath's confidence vanished. What are those ships made of? Then humanity answered. The enormous railguns lining the human flagship rotated into firing position. A deep blue light spread along the barrels. Power levels climbed higher, higher, higher still. The weapon fired. There was no explosion. Only a single beam of compressed kinetic energy traveling at impossible speed. Punched through one Zerath battleship. Then another. Then a carrier. Then 3 destroyers lined up behind them. 6 warships vanished in less than a second. Shock spread across every bridge in the alien fleet. Before anyone could react, hundreds of human dreadnoughts fired together. The darkness of space lit up with streaks of blue light. Entire enemy formations disappeared. Ships that had survived centuries of war simply ceased to exist. Across the galaxy, billions watched in stunned silence. The same humanity they had dismissed as peaceful was dismantling the greatest military empire in history, without hesitation, without mercy, without losing formation. On the bridge of the Oblivion's wrath, alarms screamed from every console. "Commander, we've lost the 7th battle group, 8th battle group destroyed, 9th fleet collapsing." Zerath slammed his fist onto the command console. "Impossible! No one defeats the Zerath Dominion." Then another officer looked up slowly. Fear filled his eyes. "Commander, the humans. They're not defending Earth anymore. They're hunting us." The battlefield had become unrecognizable. Only an hour earlier, the Zerath Dominion had surrounded Earth with overwhelming force. Their commanders had spoken of victory as if it were already guaranteed. They expected to conquer another world before sunset. Now, the invaders were the ones surrounded. Thousands of Olympus fleet warships advanced in flawless formation, cutting through the once invincible Zerath armada. Wreckage drifted in every direction as burning alien vessels spun silently through space. Across every military channel, one message repeated over and over. Enemy formation collapsing. Sector 12 secured. Drone swarms advancing. No human losses in the last engagement. General Marcus Hale listened quietly from Olympus Command. Everything was unfolding exactly as planned. On the bridge of the Oblivion's wrath, Supreme Commander Zerath slammed his fist against the tactical table. "Status." His officers hesitated. Finally, one of them spoke. "We have lost 38% of the invasion fleet." Another added, 6 planetary bombardment platforms have been destroyed." A third officer looked pale. "Our long-range communications are being jammed." Zerath's eyes narrowed. "They're isolating us." "Yes, Commander." They anticipated every move. For the first time in his military career, Zerath felt fear. Thousands of light-years away, inside the black fortress world of the Zerath Dominion, Emperor Kaler watched the battle unfold through a massive holographic display. His throne room fell silent. No one dared speak. The Emperor had never witnessed a defeat. Not once. For centuries, entire galaxies had bowed before him. Yet now, his greatest fleet was being dismantled by a civilization everyone had dismissed as weak. He slowly stood. "So, the humans finally revealed themselves." An advisor stepped forward cautiously. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should negotiate." The Emperor turned slowly. The room instantly froze. "Negotiate." His voice echoed through the chamber. "I do not negotiate. I conquer." He looked toward his fleet commander. "Prepare the Imperial Guard." Every officer in the room gasped. The Imperial Guard had not fought a war in over 400 years. It was the Emperor's personal fleet, the strongest military force the Dominion possessed. 5,000 elite warships, every vessel equipped with experimental weapons forbidden by galactic law. The commander bowed. "As you command." Within minutes, the Imperial Guard disappeared into hyperspace. Back in the Sol system, General Hale received the update. A young intelligence officer looked nervous. "General, we've detected another hyperspace wave." Marcus didn't even look surprised. "Estimated numbers?" "Approximately 5,000 vessels." "The Imperial Guard." Several officers exchanged worried glances. One whispered, So the Emperor finally entered the war. Marcus smiled slightly. Good. Everyone looked confused. Good, sir? He nodded. That means he's emotional. And emotional commanders make mistakes. Emperor Kaler activated an open communication channel. His face appeared on every screen in the solar system. Unlike Zerath, the Emperor looked calm, powerful, confident. So, you are the humans. General Hale accepted the transmission. For the first time, the two leaders faced each other. Kaler smiled. You hid well. Marcus answered quietly. We learned long ago that peace survives only when it is protected. The Emperor laughed. You built a fleet in secret for 3 centuries. And yet, you still cannot defeat me. Marcus simply asked one question. Are you certain? The Emperor's smile faded. He ended the transmission. Moments later, the Imperial Guard attacked. Cross returned the salute. At ease, Captain. He looked toward the tactical display. The Emperor has taken the bait. Sarah frowned. Bait? Cross smiled. The first defense fleet. She suddenly understood. You wanted him to believe he was winning. Exactly. The Olympus fleet was never the trap. The trap was his pride. Far beyond Neptune, space rippled once again. The Imperial Guard arrived. Unlike the first invasion fleet, these ships looked terrifying. Jet-black armor, crimson energy shields, weapons unlike anything the Council had ever catalogued. At their center floated the Emperor's flagship, the Eternal Throne. It was nearly the size of a small moon. Across the galaxy, fear returned. Many believed even the Olympus fleet couldn't defeat something so enormous. The Galactic Council watched in silence. One representative whispered, if humanity loses now, there will be no second chance. Captain Sarah Mitchell had transferred from the damaged HMS Valor to one of the new Olympus command ships. Standing on its bridge felt unreal. The vessel was nearly 20 kilometers long. Its bridge alone was larger than entire warships she had commanded before. The technology surrounding her seemed centuries ahead of anything in the official human navy. Grand Admiral Nathan Cross entered the bridge. Despite his age, he stood perfectly straight. His silver uniform carried no medals. He didn't need them. Every officer immediately saluted. Sarah stepped forward. Sir. Their first volley shook the entire solar system. Experimental weapons tore through space, destroying dozens of unmanned human drone carriers. For the first time since Protocol Olympus activated, human casualties appeared on the tactical display. Captain Sarah Mitchell watched silently. Grand Admiral Cross remained calm. Now. Sarah looked at him. Now? He nodded. Activate Formation Aegis. Across the battlefield, thousands of Olympus warships suddenly changed formation. Instead of attacking directly, they began retreating. The Zerath commanders cheered. They're falling back. The humans are retreating. Even Emperor Kaler smiled. I knew it. He gave the order. Advance. Every Imperial Guard ship surged forward, eager to finish the battle. None of them noticed what lay hidden behind Saturn's rings. Hundreds of enormous structures, invisible moments earlier, slowly powered up. Ancient weapons, built in absolute secrecy, waiting for one command. General Hale watched the Emperor's fleet enter the designated kill zone. He took a deep breath, then quietly spoke the words every hidden weapons officer had waited 3 centuries to hear. Activate the Aegis Array. Across the darkness behind Saturn, thousands of colossal railgun batteries awakened, and the Emperor realized, far too late, that he had just flown directly into humanity's real trap. The moment the Imperial Guard crossed Saturn's orbit, every human commander stopped firing. The sudden silence confused the Zerath fleet. Emperor Kaler frowned as he studied the tactical display. Why have the humans ceased their attack? No one answered. The Imperial Guard continued advancing, eager to crush the retreating Olympus fleet once and for all. Then, every warning alarm aboard the Eternal Throne activated at the same time. A tactical officer looked up in horror. Your Majesty, I'm detecting enormous energy signatures behind Saturn. Kaler stood from his throne. Visual. The main screen shifted toward Saturn's rings. First, there was nothing. Only billions of chunks of ice and rock floating peacefully through space. Then the rings began to move. Massive sections separated with mechanical precision. Entire asteroids rotated out of position. Gigantic armored doors opened. The darkness behind the rings lit up with thousands of blue lights. The officer whispered, "They're not asteroids. They're weapons." For 300 years, humanity had hidden its greatest secret. While the galaxy believed humans were constructing research stations and mining facilities, engineers had been building something far more terrifying. The Aegis Array, a network of over 2,000 orbital railgun fortresses, each carved into asteroids and protected by layers of stealth technology. Invisible, silent, waiting. Every fortress carried magnetic cannons capable of accelerating tungsten rods to a significant fraction of the speed of light. General Marcus Hale watched the targeting systems activate. "Target confirmation?" Commander Elena Brooks replied. "Imperial Guard fully inside the engagement zone. Fire when ready." Across the solar system, the ancient weapons awakened. Blue energy raced along kilometer-long magnetic rails. The entire ring system glowed like a second sun. Then, they fired. Thousands of hypervelocity projectiles crossed space almost instantly. The Imperial Guard never had time to react. The first wave tore through the lead formation. Battleships that had survived centuries of warfare were punched clean through from bow to stern. Explosions erupted across the battlefield. Entire squadrons disappeared in seconds. One Zerath commander screamed, "Our shields aren't stopping them." Another shouted, "Hull breaches everywhere." Panic spread through the Imperial Guard. On the bridge of the Eternal Throne, Kaler gripped his throne so tightly that the metal bent beneath his fingers. "Return fire!" The order echoed through every surviving ship. Thousands of crimson plasma beams streaked toward Saturn. But they hit nothing. The Aegis Array was buried deep inside reinforced asteroids. Only the railgun barrels were exposed for a few seconds before disappearing again. Every time the Imperial Guard fired, the weapons vanished beneath layers of armor, then reappeared somewhere else. The entire defense network moved like a living machine. Grand Admiral Nathan Cross smiled as the enemy formation began to collapse. He turned toward Captain Sarah Mitchell. "Now we strike." The Olympus fleet, which had appeared to retreat, suddenly reversed course. 10,000 warships accelerated directly into the confused Imperial Guard. Drone swarms flooded space. Stealth cruisers appeared behind enemy lines. Heavy dreadnoughts unleashed continuous railgun fire. Every Olympus battle group attacked a different section of the Zerath fleet with perfect coordination. Within minutes, the once proud Imperial Guard was split into dozens of isolated pockets. Aboard the Eternal Throne, alarms screamed non-stop. Left flank destroyed. Rear formation collapsing. "We've lost contact with the 3rd Imperial Division." Kaler stared in disbelief. This wasn't a battle anymore. It was an execution. For the first time in his life, the Emperor realized he might lose. Far away, inside the Galactic Council chamber, representatives watched the battle in complete silence. No one spoke. No one moved. One elderly historian finally whispered, "We misunderstood humanity." Another council member slowly nodded. "They never abandoned war. They mastered it, and chose not to use it." Those words echoed throughout the chamber. For centuries, every civilization had mistaken restraint for weakness. Now they understood the truth. Humanity had never become harmless. Humanity had simply become disciplined. Back on the battlefield, General Hale issued a single order. "Open a channel to Emperor Kaler." Moments later, the Emperor's face appeared on the main display. Smoke filled the bridge behind him. Officers rushed in every direction. Marcus looked directly into Kaler's eyes. "You still have a choice. Surrender." Kaler's expression hardened. "The Zerath Dominion never surrenders." Marcus sighed. "I was afraid you'd say that." The transmission ended. Seconds later, the Olympus fleet launched its final assault. The largest dreadnought in the fleet, the HMS Olympus, moved to the front. Nearly 30 kilometers long, it dwarfed every other ship on the battlefield. Its primary weapon slowly emerged from beneath layers of armor. A spinal rail cannon unlike anything ever built. Power readings climbed higher and higher. Even human officers watched in awe. Captain Sarah Mitchell whispered, "I've never seen that weapon before." Grand Admiral Cross smiled. "Very few have." The weapon reached full charge. A brilliant blue beam erupted across space. It struck the Eternal Throne directly in the center. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then cracks spread across the Emperor's shields. The shields shattered. The beam continued through the flagship's armored hull. A chain reaction erupted inside the massive vessel. Light burst from every deck. Explosions raced from bow to stern. The greatest warship ever built by the Zerath Dominion split apart. The Eternal Throne broke into two burning halves before disappearing in a blinding explosion that illuminated the entire solar system. Silence followed. Then, every remaining Zerath warship stopped firing. Their emperor was gone. Their flagship was destroyed. Their command structure had collapsed. Across the battlefield, surrender signals began appearing one after another. The war was over. The Dominion had fallen. For the first time in over 1,000 years, the Zerath Dominion was silent. Across the battlefield, thousands of surviving Zerath warships powered down their weapons. White surrender beacons illuminated the darkness as escape pods drifted away from burning wreckage. No human ship fired another shot. Instead, the Olympus fleet formed a defensive perimeter around the surrendering enemy. Captain Sarah Mitchell watched the tactical display in amazement. "Sir, they're completely at our mercy." Grand Admiral Nathan Cross nodded. "They are. Then why aren't we finishing them?" Cross looked out at the stars. "Because we're not here to conquer. We're here to make sure no one ever threatens Earth again." Sarah finally understood. Everything the galaxy believed about humanity had been wrong. Not because humans were secretly bloodthirsty, but because they had become strong enough to choose restraint. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, no one spoke. Representatives from more than 400 civilizations stared at the battlefield in stunned silence. The greatest military empire in known history had been defeated in less than a single day, without conquering a single alien world, without firing on civilian populations, without committing a single war crime. Council Director Zerath slowly stood. His voice echoed across the chamber. "We owe humanity an apology." Several representatives lowered their heads. One elder from the Avarice Collective spoke quietly. "For centuries, we laughed at them. We called them weak. We believed peace had made them soft." Another representative added, "We were wrong. No, we were blind." On Earth, people poured into the streets. News broadcasts confirmed the impossible. The invasion has ended. Church bells rang across ancient cities. Mosques echoed with prayers of gratitude. Children waved Earth flags from rooftops. Families hugged one another as fireworks lit up the night sky. The world celebrated not because humanity had won a war, but because it had survived. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, General Marcus Hale removed the ancient quantum key from the Olympus console. The blue lights inside the command chamber slowly faded. One of the elderly guardians smiled. "So, it's finally over." Marcus looked at the old console. "No, it's only beginning." The others looked at him. "The galaxy has seen what we can do. Now we must show them who we are." No symbols of victory. Only the silver phoenix of the Olympus fleet. Every representative stood as he entered. Even those whose civilizations had once mocked humanity. Zerath stepped forward. "General Hale, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize." Marcus remained silent. Zerath continued. "We judged humanity without understanding it. We confused kindness with weakness. We believed your peaceful nature meant you had forgotten how to fight." Marcus finally spoke. "No, we remembered. That's exactly why we chose peace. The room became completely silent. A young delegate cautiously raised a question. If humanity possessed the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, why hide it? Marcus smiled faintly. Because history taught us something every civilization eventually learns. He activated a hologram. Images of ancient human wars appeared. Cities in ruins, destroyed fleets, burning worlds. Thousands of years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves. We learned that strength without wisdom leads only to extinction. The hologram changed. Human engineers building hidden shipyards. Scientists designing advanced reactors. Children studying history. So we made a promise. 3 days later, the Galactic Council officially requested a summit on Luna, Earth's moon. For the first time in history, nearly every major civilization sent its highest representatives. The enormous conference hall overlooked the Earth below. Delegates expected to see thousands of armed guards. Instead, they found none. Only a handful of human security officers stood quietly near the entrance. The delegates exchanged nervous glances. One whispered, "They aren't even afraid." Another answered, "They don't need to be." General Marcus Hale entered the chamber wearing a simple dark blue diplomatic uniform. No medals, no decorations. We would never again seek conquest. But we would also never allow anyone to threaten our home. Another delegate asked, "So the Olympus fleet was built only for defense?" Marcus nodded. For 3 centuries it remained hidden. It fired no shots. It invaded no worlds. It threatened no civilizations. It simply waited. An elderly representative slowly stood. His voice trembled. If the Zerath Dominion had never attacked Earth, would the galaxy have ever known your fleet existed? Marcus looked toward the blue planet hanging outside the great windows. Then he answered, "No." Silence. Every delegate realized the truth. Humanity had possessed unimaginable power for centuries, and had chosen never to use it, not because it couldn't, because it wouldn't. Respect replaced fear. One by one, representatives from every civilization stood and bowed, not to a conqueror, but to a civilization strong enough to refuse conquest. As the meeting ended, Marcus received an urgent encrypted message from the Olympus Command Network. His expression changed instantly. Grand Admiral Cross noticed. "What is it?" Marcus looked toward the stars beyond the moon. Long-range sensors had detected something unexpected. A massive hyperspace disturbance. Far beyond the edge of the known galaxy. Something even older than the Zerath Dominion had just awakened. The celebration across Earth lasted for days. Cities that had expected destruction were now filled with music, laughter, and relief. Across every continent, people gathered beneath the night sky, watching the countless Olympus warships still standing guard in orbit. For most of humanity, it was the first time they had ever seen the fleet that had protected them in secret for 3 centuries. Children pointed excitedly toward the stars. Veterans stood in silence, tears filling their eyes. The world had survived. A week later, the Galactic Council requested that humanity address every known civilization. Never before had a single speech been broadcast simultaneously to the entire galaxy. More than 8 trillion beings tuned in. The transmission originated from the Hall of Nations on Luna. There were no grand decorations, no trophies, no captured enemy banners. Only one large window overlooking Earth. Standing before it was General Marcus Hale. His uniform remained simple. Behind him stood representatives from every nation on Earth. Not as rivals, but as one united humanity. Marcus waited until the chamber fell completely silent. Then he began. "People of the galaxy, for centuries, many of you believed humanity had become weak. You believed our desire for peace meant we had forgotten how to fight. The Zerath Dominion believed the same thing. They were wrong. The holographic screens changed, showing images from the invasion. Human cities, burning ships, families taking shelter, soldiers making their final stand. Our first fleet was never expected to win. Those brave men and women knew they were buying time. Many gave their lives protecting people they would never meet. The galaxy saw their sacrifice. Earth will never forget it. Around the hall, surviving captains lowered their heads. Captain Sarah Mitchell closed her eyes as the names of the fallen appeared on the screen. Thousands of names. Heroes whose courage had made Protocol Olympus possible. Marcus continued. Many of you are wondering why humanity hid the Olympus fleet for 300 years. The answer is simple. He paused. We learned from our own history. Images of ancient Earth filled the screen. The world wars, nuclear weapons, ruined cities, refugees, generations rebuilding from destruction. We know what happens when power is controlled by pride. We know what happens when fear becomes hatred. We know the cost of endless war. That is why we built our greatest weapon, not to conquer the stars, but to ensure that no one would ever conquer our home. The hall remained silent. Even the oldest civilizations listened without interruption. Marcus looked directly into the cameras. Let this be remembered by every empire that exists today, and every empire yet to be born. His voice became stronger. Humanity seeks friendship before conflict, diplomacy before war, understanding before violence. But if someone threatens Earth, if someone threatens our families, if someone believes peace is weakness, he paused once more. They will discover what the Zerath Dominion discovered. The most dangerous civilization is not the one that loves war. It is the one that understands it and still chooses peace. The speech ended. For several seconds, not a single world transmitted a response. Then, one after another, representatives from hundreds of civilizations stood. They applauded, not out of fear, out of respect. The Galactic Council unanimously passed a new resolution. From that day forward, Earth would hold a permanent seat as the protector of the Galactic Alliance. No civilization objected. Months later, reconstruction efforts began across the former territories of the Zerath Dominion. Instead of occupying conquered systems, humanity sent engineers, doctors, food convoys, and construction ships. Olympus warships escorted relief missions rather than invasion fleets. The same empire that had tried to destroy Earth watched in disbelief as humans rebuilt worlds that had once belonged to their enemies. A young Zerath child asked a human engineer, "Why are you helping us?" The engineer smiled. "Because peace only matters if everyone gets a chance to live in it." Years passed. Trade flourished. Wars became rare. The Olympus fleet remained hidden once more, scattered throughout secret locations across human space. Most citizens returned to ordinary lives. Farmers farmed. Scientists explored. Children dreamed of becoming astronauts. The galaxy slowly healed. One quiet evening, General Marcus Hale stood alone on a balcony overlooking Earth. Grand Admiral Nathan Cross joined him. "The fleet is hidden again," Cross said. Marcus nodded. "I hope it stays that way." Cross smiled. "So do I." For a while, neither man spoke. Then an officer rushed onto the balcony. "General," Marcus turned. "The deep space observatories have confirmed the signal." "The one beyond the edge of the galaxy?" The officer nodded. "It's getting stronger." Marcus looked toward the stars. Somewhere far beyond known space, something ancient had awakened. Older than the Zerath Dominion. Older than the Galactic Council. Perhaps older than humanity itself. He smiled. "Then let it come." Behind him, Earth shone brightly against the darkness of space. Protected, united, ready. Because the galaxy had finally learned a lesson it would never forget. Never mistake humanity's kindness for weakness. Never mistake humanity's desire for peace as a lack of strength. And above all, never force humanity to reveal what it has spent centuries preparing. The end.